Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today is the first Tuesday of the month, and for those of you who know a little something about something, that means that we're getting ready to get into another RPG Elite philosophy video. So let's get to it. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Once again, it's your boy Servant here on RPG Elite. This is the place, folks, where we put the RP back into RPG, and we do that by giving you tools, tips, tutorials, and talk on how to make your RPG experience, tabletop RPG experience that is, more immersive and enjoyable. I want to say what's up to all of my leaks, what's up, and all of my returnees, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Before we get into today's video, I want to turn your attention over to the community tab because we have our classic tabletop RPG image of the week. Here it is. Very simple. Go over to the community tab and take a guess at it. Take a stab. Do you know your tabletop RPGs? You know your classics? I know I'm stumping a lot of y'all. If you know your classics or you think you know your classics, well, go ahead, go over to the community tab. And if you don't know how to get there, the link is down in the description below in this video. Just click on it, take a stab at it. What game is that from? And what publication of that game is that from? Like, is it from the core book? Is it from a module? What module is it from? That kind of thing. And also, if you're enjoying the content here, especially you returnees, if you're enjoying the content here on the channel, then go ahead, hit that subscribe button and smash that notification bell as well so you can know when I come out with videos, which is Tuesdays and Fridays of every week. Working hard over here, y'all. Working hard. Get them out on time to you guys. And of course, the small little thing that you can do that is just gonna give me so much pleasure is if you just crush that like button. Please, pretty please, give a brother some YouTube algorithm love. Today, we're going to focus on RPG Elite quality number 6. We're halfway through our qualities here. And for those of you who may be new, who are asking, what is he talking about? RPG Elite quality, RPG Elite philosophy, what's up with that? Oh, not to worry at all. Just go down in the link in the description below. There's a link to the playlist of all the videos that we've done so far in the first 5 qualities and the overview as well. And you can get up to speed on what we're talking about here. But today we're going to be on number 6 of our RPG Elite quality. So let's get to it. RPG Elite quality number 6 is RPG Elite's know the rules of the game they play. Now this is different, and sometimes people get it confused with RPG Elite quality number 3. They're not the same. We talk about rules and we use that word in both of them, but it's not the same. So let's break down what I'm talking about here when it comes to RPG Elites know the rules of the game that they play. RPG Elites focus on 3 things before session 1 even starts. And this is for every player, GM, and just player alike at the table. Everybody's going to be focused on these 3 things. Number 1, they're going to focus on the major mechanics of the game. And actually, it's a major mechanic of the game, not plural, but singular. In every RPG, there's a way to do things. This is the way to do things in this tabletop RPG. And before anyone gets into anything in a campaign that they are beginning, they are going to focus on learning the primary mechanic of the game. Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. In Gamma World 3rd edition, let's just say your GM has decided to throw away for at least the next 6 months or a year or so the game that I refuse to mention by name on this channel. And they said, let's go ahead and let's play some Gamma World 3rd edition. And everybody around the table is like, yeah, let's take a break for a little while and let's do that. So the first thing that they are going to focus on is the major mechanic of Gamma World 3rd Edition, and that would be the ACT. Now, for those of you who don't know, I've got a whole series on Gamma World, and we're almost at the end of that. I got a whole series and I did a whole video on the ACT. This is the major mechanic of Gamma World 3rd Edition. You need to know this. You need to know how to work this ACT or action table. This is the meat and potatoes of that system. So you need to know it. What do the colors mean? What do the numbers mean? What do the columns mean on the table? What is all this stuff? How does it work? All right. Well, that is what you are going to focus on as an RPG Elite. Again, this is before session 1. Folks, this is before session 0. We'll get into that in a second. This is before session 0. RPG Elites don't like to waste time. That is why they know the rules of the game. So they're going to focus, number 1, on the primary mechanic of whatever tabletop RPG that they are about to play, whatever campaign. Of course, this doesn't apply for a one-shot, right? If you're doing a one-shot, you don't need to know all that. But if you're going to go in a campaign and you're going to be in it for like the next 6 months, yes, this is something that you're going to focus on, or longer. You're definitely going to need to focus on that. So the second thing is character creation. Now, when we talk about character creation here, we're not just talking about how to create a character. We're talking about everything on that character sheet. We know what it is. We know what all of the spaces and the abbreviations and all that, we know what all that means. Give you another example. Here is a character sheet from Gamma World 3rd Edition. And so we're going to know what PS means, MS means. We're going to know what the money denominations are in the game. We're going to know what mutations are, how they work, and how they differ. We're going to know all those things, player and GM alike. We're going to know all those things. But especially as a player, you're going to know how to create your character and what all of those things are, because you understand the major mechanic. That the major mechanic has got to come first if you want to make and create the character that you would like to make and make it the right way. I don't know how many times I've been in a situation where we've got around the table, somebody makes a character, and then all of a sudden later on, you're in the campaign, they're saying, oh, well, I wish I would have known that when I created the character. All right, this eliminates that, right? If you know the major mechanic of the game first, and then you focus on creating your character, you'll know, oh, okay, I want a character like this, and in order to have it in this particular game, I'm going to have to focus on this, or I'm going to have to focus on that. I might have to add some points here or there. If you don't understand them before you start playing, then you're going to find yourself in that kind of situation. And you don't want to find yourself in that kind of situation, because that would be having a character that really didn't reflect what you had in your head. And so that's what all of this is about, to make sure that you make the character as close as you possibly can to the one that's in your head for this particular campaign and for this particular tabletop RPG. And the last one that we focus on, and this is in general, we're not talking about we focus on every nuance of everything here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about we get into understanding the meat and potatoes, the foundations of each of these three things. So the last one would be combat. Now, sooner or later, it's not, and you might not even be a very combat focused campaign. You might not be running one of those. That's fine. But sooner or later, combat is going to happen. And when it happens, we all know in the tabletop RPG community that time slows down. Because combat slows down, RPG elites focus on understanding combat so that combat flows more smoothly and is more a part of the storytelling experience. Instead of asking a whole bunch of questions about combat in the middle of combat and making it go even longer, and especially if you got a lot of people, Anybody that's been playing tabletop RPGs for any amount of time knows that once you have a lot of people and combat happens, everything slows down. I've had whole sessions that ran for 4 hours and was nothing but one combat because we had 5 people at the table, and it just took a long time. And it's also because players didn't understand tactics. They didn't understand how basic combat worked. They didn't understand none of that. So we're trying to explain all this stuff as we go on the fly. It just makes things a whole lot longer. So before we even get into a session, we're going to learn about combat. We're going to learn how it works, the major mechanic, how the major mechanics work with combat. We're going to understand how movement is, their initiative. How does that work? How does surprise work? All of those things we're going to understand before we even come to the table. We'll get it, we'll know it, and we'll be ready to go. So the 3 things that we're going to focus on as RPG Elites, and the 3 things that is going to help you and your campaign start off right, is focusing on the major mechanic, focus on character creation, and focusing on combat, and knowing the basics. I am not talking about every detail because that would be rules police. We're going to do this, and this, and this. All right, no. We want to understand how these things work, so the campaign sessions will flow more smoothly. Now, how are you going to focus on these things as a player? As a GM, it's a given. You're going to have the core book and everything. But what about the rest of your players? You got 5 other players or 4 other players, sometimes 6 other players. How are they going to know all this stuff? How are they going to understand before you play? There are a few ways that you can prepare your players to get ready before you start a new campaign. Number 1, well, everybody could just go out and buy the game. That's the easy way, right? Everybody go out, buy the game. You might not go out and buy the hardcover version. You can probably go and download a PDF over a Drive-Thru RPG or something like that. Get it, and then study those sections. Study the sections on the major mechanic, character creation, and combat. That's it, right? You could do that. That would require, of course, everybody investing a little bit into it. Now, the one thing that's good about that is that, okay, well, if people start spending money on stuff, they might be a little bit more serious about the campaign overall, since they have gone out and bought the thing. Number 2, as a GM, you can do a little bit of work. You could just put together a custom player's guide from like the PDF of your game, and like in Gamma World 3rd edition, you get the PDF of it, and then you take out the sections that you want your players to focus on, make a player's guide, cut and paste that stuff, real simple, and then give it to all of your players. Nowadays, some of the new tabletop RPGs have that. They have like player's guides, which is the bare bones, how to create characters, what the major mechanic and how it works. They may not do combat, but you can do that. So your players will be ready. And you give this to them probably 3-4 weeks out minimum, because a lot of us, we're grown, either got school, work, other responsibilities. You want to give us some time so we can have this, marinate in it, and learn it. I normally like to give my players up to 6 weeks. So there will be no excuses when we come to the table about not knowing how to play the game, the basics at least. Number 3 is you can just wait for session 0 and do all of that at session 0, which, if you don't know, session 0 is when you guys are just trying to learn the game. The problem with this one, this is the most ineffective way to do this. And the reason why is that if you still are the only one, let's say there's 1, maybe 2 players who have the core book. And so to remember all of that stuff for the next session, most people are not going to do it. But if they have like a player's guide that they can own and they can look at their leisure and dig into with undivided attention on their own schedule, they're going to retain that much better than one session. So normally how I do it is I'll put together either a player's guide or I'll get them a copy of a player's guide, and then I give that to everybody. And the thing that I tell them to do is create your character. You create the character in the background. And this is on their own. We're not at session 0 doing this. This is on their own. Then when we come back for session 0, they know the major mechanic. They've created their characters, and so they should know everything on the character sheet and how that plays into playing that tabletop RPG. And then if you've made a guide for them, combat, they'll understand how to do that. And session 0 would be putting them in particular scenarios and using the major mechanic in certain situations, just mock scenarios and how that would work. And then maybe you do a mock combat. And then after all of that is said and done, answer any questions that they may have, and you're ready to go. Session 1 is around the corner. From session 1 on, nobody is around that table going, well, how do you do this? And how do you do that? And how do you do this? And that just wastes time. We're just in it and we're ready to play. Little GM tip here. One of the things that you can do after you guys have been playing for a while, maybe 2-3 sessions, or it could be from Get if you want to do it like that, is assign certain sections of the core book to players to know. So when it comes to that particular mechanic, instead of trying to flip through the book all the time, you ask that player. That player will probably know it off the top of the dome if they're RPG elite, because they're going to take it seriously and they're going to know that. And you'll just simply be able to ask them. Now, you as a GM should know as well. That's true. I'm talking about those times when you don't know. Maybe you've overlooked something or you've forgotten and you just ask them because you've asked them to actually focus on that. This does a couple of things, but the main thing that it does is it makes the players more invested in the campaign. It's not just the GM doing everything. And by the way, that's another video by itself, because the GM shouldn't be doing everything. It makes the players more invested in the campaign because it's going beyond just their characters now. But we're really counting on them to help carry the campaign in certain areas. So everybody's taking a bit of the load. And when you take a bit of the load off of your GM, then your GM can focus on those other things that you guys think is fun. Now, that is another RPG Elite quality that we'll get into later on. So this is how you're going to start your campaign off right. You're not going to come to the table cold. Shouldn't come to the table cold. RPG Elites know this. And the main reason why is this. Here it is. Why do we do all of this before we even get into session 1? Quite plainly, we don't want to waste time. The reason why we don't want to waste time is because time is life and you don't get it back. So as soon as we get into session 1, we want to be off to the races. And so it's everyone's responsibility to get ready for session 1 and to get ready to have a whole lot of fun for whatever campaign that you are beginning. And RPG Elites, well, we take that seriously. No time wasting here. No TW. That's it, folks. RPG Elite quality number 6. RPG Elites know the rules of the game that they play. And you know why we know the rules of the game that we play. So what do you think? I'd like to know what you think. Just go ahead, hit me up in the comments below. If you like the video, crush the like button. And also, hey, if you've gone through and you've seen a couple of the other videos, go ahead and subscribe today. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm going to get out of here right now. If you've got some tabletop RPG campaigns that you are starting this week, Or you were thinking about starting it and then you saw this video and was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should do this to help get this campaign started right. Hey, kudos to you. Happy gaming. And until Friday, God willing, you know what I'm going to say. I'm going to catch you on the flip, y'all. And until then, peace and hair grease.